What's going on? Welcome back to another live stream, guys. Appreciate everybody for coming in and hanging out again. How does the audio sound? Sounds good on my end, but that doesn't always mean anything. Welcome to a brutal crypto cycle. Before we get started, though, make sure you guys pay your bar tabs. Like video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, because at 10,000 subscribers, we're giving away 10,000 Caspa. And I would love for one of you guys to win 10,000 Caspa. But we got to get there first. So, hit that like button. So what I want to talk about today is this cycle in general, because as you guys probably feel, just like I feel, it is extremely annoying. And Joe says no alt season. See, I guess anything is possible. But I'm still of the belief that we are going to have one, and I'll show you guys a little bit, a few things on why I think that still. Now, there's pretty much only three options here, and the first option is the cycle's over. Okay? That's not my base case at this point still. Option number 2 is we're going to top out in Q4 just like we always do, and we're going to have a violent November, December, maybe even into January a little bit. Because it still kind of feels like we're tracking the 2017 cycle. The third option is that the cycle's extended. And I am starting to be more open to that idea as we move forward. That being said, it's hard to know exactly what's going to happen, right? So the good thing that we have in front of us is that Q4 is literally, we're in Q4 right now, okay? So if we go through Q4 and it's just as frustrating, price doesn't move all that much, then we know, right? It's not going to top out in Q4. And at that point, I would say the likelihood of an extended cycle is, jumps way up. Because when I look at everything that's going on macro and behind the scenes, it's hard for me to believe that this cycle's over. Okay? Let's take a look at a post. Let me see here. That I made on X earlier today. And by the way, follow me on X if you haven't already, at CatDaddyCrypto. Okay, so this is the reason why I don't feel that this cycle is over yet. Because interest rates are actively being cut, right, as we speak. The Fed literally just said in the minutes a few days ago that they're going to NQT in the coming months. Quantitative tightening, for anybody who doesn't know what that means. Where they where they shrink the balance sheet, right? And then once QT ends, usually QE starts, quantitative easing, where they expand the balance sheet and more liquidity gets flooded into the market. So the Fed has literally just said that they're going to end QT in the coming months, and everyone is swearing that we're entering a bear market right now. I don't see it. Either this ends up in a Q4 top, just like prior cycles, or the cycle gets prolonged by a matter of months. I'm not sure which one will happen, but it's usually at the time when the bearish sentiment is at an all-time high and everyone's calling for the end of the cycle is when crypto rips and melts faces. And it seems like we are in a phase where more people are calling for the end of the cycle than not. Maybe we should put a poll out and see what everybody is thinking and what the sentiment actually is. But for me, I just look at all of the positive news, and then on top of that, you've got nation states buying Bitcoin. You've got a U.S. Government that is actually pro-crypto at this point in time, and policies are being passed and made for pro-crypto sentiment. And it's just hard for me to believe that when you look at everything macroly, everything behind the scenes, whales are still buying. It's hard for me to imagine that the cycle's over. As frustrating as it is, and as annoying as it might be, I think that we just have to, and I know everybody's sick and tired of hearing this, because it's just been going on and on and on and on for a while. And everybody keeps saying the same thing, just be patient. But literally, the ones who make it through this time period that we're in right now are the ones that are going to make it in the cycle, because I am trying to see the forest through the trees here and look at everything macroly and look at all the positive things going on in the background right now. And for us to just dump into a bear market doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me at this point. And also, yeah, Johnny Taco says extended cycle. There's a possibility of that. We don't know if Bitcoin and crypto follows a 4-year cycle, or it follows the overall economic cycle, money cycle. And we're going to find out this time around which one's more important. This is funny. Wallet number 2 bought 1 Caspa today. Probably Wintermute wallet testing. I didn't see the testing part. I just thought you were being funny there. But yeah, all of these big wallets, they always throw out, very small amounts here and there for testing purposes. But yeah, I do believe this is a shakeout, right? And, for everyone that's, every other day saying alt season started, or we're going into a bear market just for clickbait on their thumbnails, I do think this is the last shakeout. I just don't know how long the shakeout's going to be, right? We had a massive flash crash. We didn't come back up to levels that we were at before, and we're slowly going down again. I think right, everybody's so quick to say that this crash is over, this is the final crash, blah, 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 blah. But what they fail to say is that pullbacks like this can be prolonged. It doesn't have to just go V-shape right back up immediately. And as I do think this is pretty much our final shakeout, providing the cycle is going to end in Q4 or very early Q1 next year, then this should be the final shakeout. It's just a matter of how long it's going to last. Okay? And based on the 2017 cycle, we had altcoins not run until November. And so maybe that's what we're going to get this time. Or maybe not. Maybe the cycle's extended. We don't know. But like I said before, the good thing is quarter 4, we're in it right now. We're going to see what happens, right? If we go parabolic, awesome. If we don't, I'm going to move to the idea that we're probably in an extended cycle. And as long as this one metric holds, okay, there's one thing that has ended all cycles prior, and if we hold this, then I'm going to say extended cycle or, topping Q4. If we don't hold this, then there's a solid chance the cycle's over, and maybe we just don't get an alt season this time, which would be absolutely horrible and tragic and just extremely frustrating, being that some of us, like myself, have been sitting here for 4 years waiting for alt season, and if we don't get one, then it's going to be pretty, effing annoying. But check this out, guys. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin on the weekly chart. And let me move this over so you guys can see it. If I can find... There we go. Okay. Let's blow that up to there. Okay. So, interestingly enough, this is the 50-week moving average, okay? And we fell basically straight to it on this last flash crash, okay? We're sitting a little bit above it now, but the 50-week moving average is telling, because if we follow every single cycle back to the 2017 cycle, if I can somehow get the 2017 cycle on the screen here, okay? Actually, it goes back even to the 2013 cycle, 2013, 2014. Look at what happens. Okay? We had a bull market, right? Whoops. Wrong screen there. Okay. So we had a bull market, and we held the 50 pretty much all the way up, and we bounced off it multiple times, okay? It wasn't until we went under the 50-week moving average and closed a week underneath the 50-week moving average where the cycle was over. Right? Let me see if I can... right here. Okay. We closed a week under the 50-week moving average. Boom. Into a bear market for a couple years. Okay? Now let's go take a look at the next cycle. Let's move this down. We've got the 2017 cycle. Now, look at this. This is 2017 cycle. We basically bounced off of the 50-week moving average the whole way up, okay? And it wasn't until we closed a week underneath of the 50, right here, where we went into a bear market. Okay, and we did go back above it a little bit. This last cycle was a little weird, and then we fell back under, but that's beyond the point. Okay, we fell under it right here, cycle over. Now, we go take a look at the next cycle. Right here. We're holding the 50 all the way up, okay? Obviously, you could even argue when we came back above it here, we held it here, right here. But then COVID obviously was a black swan. It took us below, but we V-shaped right back up within a matter of days, I believe. But nonetheless, we held it all the way through here. I'm going to give that a mulligan there because of the fact that it was, the biggest pandemic we saw in a long time. You can argue that all you want, but it scared a lot of people. Nonetheless, we held it even in this because we got two tops, right? We double topped last cycle in 2021. Even in the summer lull, right? We held the 50, bounced off of it a couple of times here, made our new high, and then it wasn't until we fell below the 50, closed a week, cycle over. Okay, bear market for a couple of years. Now we're back up above it and we're holding the 50 all the way up. Okay? We have not fallen below the 50-week moving average yet. Let me zoom in on this cycle here. Okay? We're sitting right at it, and the 50-week moving average is roughly sitting at $101,000. Okay? So as long as we stay, and this is ever moving, so it's going to go up as the market goes up, but as long as we stay above $100,000, we can wick below it probably, but we don't want to close any weekly candles below the 50 because history tells us that that is the end of the cycle. That's when we're going into a bear market. So this is what I'm watching closely, and this is what's going to, in theory, tell me if the cycle's over and I should at least sell something because we're probably going lower in prices. Right? But as of right now, we're holding it. We're at 107,000, 106,500 Bitcoin. And remember the 50 weeks at about 101. So we just have to hold 100 to 101,000 and not close below it. Okay, we can wick below it. We don't want to close a week below it. And so that right there has also given me some sort of relief, I guess you could say, that we're probably still in a bull market, and this is just a typical pullback that we get in bull markets, right? We get 30% pullbacks all the time in bull markets, and this last close here was, the last candle here. I don't know why I can't get these candles bigger. Was, well, let's just say from the local top here down to the bottom of this wick, it was an 18% move. That's half of what we continuously see in bull markets. And so the percentage is nothing compared to some of the pullbacks we've seen. So none of this really alarms me at all. Okay? We stayed above the 50 and it was only an 18% pullback. We've gotten multiple 30% pullbacks in bull markets. And we still went higher and we still went into a new all-time high, put in, a parabolic rally into the top. So, it doesn't worry me at all. But let's keep monitoring that because I think that is very important because history tells us when we go below that and we put in a weekly close, cycle's over. Bear market starts. Next. I want to reiterate these again for those of you who are a little worried, okay? CoinGlass, bull market peak indicators. Not one of them has flashed, and it's giving you 100% hold your ground right now. Okay? That's what it's telling us to do. Hold our ground 100%. It's not even close. And so let's just think about that, right? Along with everything else we just talked about, all indicators point to the fact that we are still in a bull market. So my theory here is, my number one theory is we're still going to top out in Q4. And if we don't, none of these indicators have hit yet by the end of Q4. We didn't get a parabolic top. We're still holding the 50-week moving average. Then my base case changes to we're probably an extended cycle. And we're just going to wait until we get a parabolic, blow off top. That's the best we can do because none of us know. The market makers know what's happening, what they're doing, because they control the markets. But all of us in retail, trying to swim with the whales, we have no idea what's happening. We just have to use logic and try and, kind of predict or set ourselves up, right, for any scenario that might happen. And be ready for any scenario that might happen. Let's look at the logical scenarios set out in front of us and have a plan and be ready to react if any of those scenarios play out, right? So if we start closing weeks below the 50-week moving average, then I'm probably going to sell a bunch of my crypto, even though some of it at that point may not even be in profit. That means we may not get an alt season. Okay? My Bitcoin will be in profit. Nothing else probably will. That's the first reaction. If that doesn't happen, I'm going to assume that we're going to top out in Q4 because that comes next, right? If we go through Q4, everything that I just mentioned is still holding up, then I'm not going to sell anything yet because I'm going to assume that the cycle's just extended. And logically speaking, those are the three main scenarios that I can see playing out. And I think the second two are much more likely based on macro data as of right now, right? Rates are being cut right now. QT is right around the corner in the next few months, says the Fed, says Jerome Powell, and, whales are still buying. And typically, when all three of those things, are in the positive, I guess you could say, or are happening in general, then good things for the market are right around the corner, right? And so that's what I would suggest. Well, let me just put it this way. That's what I'm doing. And I think that gives myself a pretty good, leeway with whatever happens. Hopefully, option number one does not happen because I'll probably have to sell for a loss. But I know the market's probably going to go down, 80, 90% from there. And so I'm going to sell it anyways and buy back in at lower prices and wait for the alt season next cycle, I guess. I still don't think that that's probably going to happen, but we have to account for every possibility, right? Because if we don't, we're cheating ourselves. And what's going to happen is we're going to ride 100% of our bags back into the bear market if that was the case. And then Q4 and then, maybe an extended cycle. We're going to see. Again, it's going to play out right in front of our eyes, and let's just be ready to react and ready to pivot at any point necessary so that we can, maneuver the market as best as we can moving forward. Because what I think, not that it really matters what I think, I think that we are sitting either right here. Can you guys see my mouse? Should I blow it up more? I can't circle this, so you just have to follow my mouse. I think we're either sitting right here, or we're actually sitting up here. And Bitcoin is probably up here because I don't think Bitcoin has a much more to go before it tops out. But altcoins, in theory, should have much more runway once they, bottom out on their Bitcoin pairs. Yeah, and CryptoBank says at some point CAS will be higher than the price it is right now. And based on logic, I'm buying. Yeah. I mean, if you're not planning on selling your Kaspa, at the peak of this market anyways, then it doesn't matter, right? You just keep buying and you keep holding. But yeah, I think if I were to guess right now, we're either at this point right here, or we're at this point right here. But I don't feel any optimism. I don't feel any belief right now. It feels like obviously we're not in thriller euphoria either. But maybe it's just short-term disbelief. If you were just in Bitcoin and you only owned Bitcoin from a price perspective, right, then you probably are in optimism and belief because Bitcoin price has been going up. It's just the altcoins that haven't moved, collectively. Obviously, there's some that have. And so you would probably be, in this sort of mind frame, right? But it's the altcoins. But a lot of times they don't move until like the last month or two of the cycle. And so you're never going to get a ton of belief out of that until, they really start moving in the last couple months. So those are my thoughts. I wonder here if we went back and looked at this total 3 chart that never seems to work for me. I'll have to retype it in. Yeah, see, we've come back up a little bit. Let's see here. Minus USDT slash BTC. Let's get that chart. Yeah, see, we've come back up a little bit. We've come way back up. So, that could have been the bottom for all we know. If you take the bases of this, come across, like we got pretty close. So who knows? Maybe the bottom's in for alts, maybe it's not. But remember in 2017, altcoins had another capitulation in November and then moved up. And so maybe we see something like that again. I don't know. Time's going to tell. And again, it's just one of those things. You just got to be patient, and things happen when they happen. Which is another reason why you should never put more than you can afford to lose into the market, because the waiting game is brutal in crypto. What do you guys think? I only have 17 likes on the video, guys. We need to get that up big time. Hit that like button. Pay your bar tabs. I know there's less people in less people hanging out today because I think people are just exhausted at this point. And I don't blame them. Yes, Austin, if you do add USDC, it did hit the trend line. So maybe I'll go back and show everybody that for a second. But yeah, you are correct. And so maybe, that might be an indication that alts did actually bottom. Right, if we go up here. Why does it do that to me? Every single time. USDT minus USDC. Watch, let's put those in parentheses. BTC. And hit that. See, we did basically come down and hit this trend line here. So that could be good news, right? We hit the trend line we hit last cycle. Altcoins bottoming on their Bitcoin pairs, and maybe that's all we need, right? We can cross our fingers. But there's a visual showing you guys. Okay. Ben says probably December, January. Could be. Definitely could be. It could be pushed back by a couple months. It could, December, typically a good month, at least for part of the month, for altcoins. When, in the post-halving year. Love the show. Appreciate it, Hemlock. Riley says, are you a buyer at these prices? I am not buying at this current second, but I would say that these are good prices to buy at. I'm kind of letting most of my bags ride. I have a little bit more money to put in the market, but I'm good not spending it. And I'm going to wait. Maybe I'll put in some buy orders at like some crazy low prices. Because what happened? If we were talking, let's just play back a story real quick. Let's say we were talking 4 months ago, right? And Caspa was at 8 or 9 cents. I don't even know what it was 4 months ago. And we were all laughing at Caspa going back down below 1 cent, right? People would have laughed at going down below, 4 or 5 cents probably at that point in time. They're like, it's never going to happen. What if you were one of these people who put a buy order in at 1 cent and it got fulfilled? Like you had a major buy order at 1 cent and it got fulfilled because we had a flash crash that nobody, not one person that you would have talked to, probably not even Infamous, would have said, we're going back down to 1 cent. Right? Maybe in the bear market, this next bear market, but not in this bull cycle that we're in right now, before we top out. That would have been pretty crazy. So I might throw in some crazy buy orders, limit orders, and see if they fill at some point, right? If we get another flash crash at the end of this month or early November, then maybe we, touch those levels again. I don't know. Or maybe that was just, a dream buying opportunity that we're never going to see again. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to put some buy orders at extremely low prices that you never think Kaspa, or any other coin that you hold for that matter, you never think it's going to hit again, because we literally just saw it in real time hit prices that we never thought. So, but in general, yes, these, in my opinion, these are good prices to buy at. Odin says 4 months ago, people didn't think Kaspa was a failure, being rejected by tier 1s even after smart contracts. Now it's 2 years later, and each time a new tech milestone leads to another drop and no tier 1 exchange attention. Well, the thing is, I don't know if you paid attention on the 8th of this month, what I was just talking about when Kaspa dropped to 1 cent. Every other project in the market, basically, besides Bitcoin and Solana and BNB, are the 3 coins that did not drop 50 to 80% on a flash crash. So you can't just single out Kaspa in that crash, because something like Sui went down to 50 cents and then straight back up to $2.50. Kaspa went down to 1 cent and then straight back up to 6 cents. And we could go look at pretty much every other altcoin. Cardano went down below 30 cents. I'm not a Cardano fan, but I know a lot of people like it. It went down below 30 and then back up to, I don't even know what it's sitting at right now because I don't follow it. But every single altcoin went down drastically. And I will comment on the tier 1s. The reason why they haven't listed is because they're a business. This is wholeheartedly what I believe. Smart contracts isn't going to do nothing for a listing when they don't get free tokens at their behalf by the team, right? And by the community, I guess it would be Kaspa's situation. They don't get free tokens. They have to buy them. So these big exchanges understand, they are privy probably to what the market makers are doing, right? They know when there's going to be crashes. They know when there's going to be parabolic runs, and they're not going to list a coin like Kaspa when they've been buying it for months upon months at 5 to 7 cents, knowing that they're going to have to list it on their exchange for that price or less, either break even or lose money. So they're not going to list a coin like Kaspa until the market is in a major uptrend and Kaspa's price is, head and shoulders above what they bought it for, so that when people are buying it off of their exchange, they're actually making money. Now, if Kaspa's community, got together and, met the demands of what these big exchanges wanted, then they would get a listing right away. But that's not how Kaspa operates. That's not how Bitcoin operated. The reason Bitcoin's on big exchanges, obviously, is because it was the only coin in the market at that time. And if you wanted to trade crypto, then, it got grandfathered in, basically, to all these exchanges because it's top dog. Back then, there was only 1 or 2 exchanges. So Kaspa is going the route that Bitcoin took, and yeah, it might take longer. But I believe, and a lot of us believe, that it's going to make it in due time. It's just a matter of time. And anytime, I tell you guys this a lot, but anytime what I should say is if you ever start feeling like you're losing hope, right, in Kaspa, just go take a look and remind yourself that Yonatan Sampolinski is the creator of Kaspa. And research again who he is and what he's done in the space and for Bitcoin, and that literally every single, well, probably not every single, but a vast majority of projects in this space use the Ghost Protocol, which was created by Aviv Zohar and Yonatan as, part of the tech that they use for their projects. There's like 30 of them. I don't think that this grassroots project is going to fail. And you've got to look at Bitcoin in 10 years, right? The security budget issue. If they don't get that straightened out, then people will jump ship because the security is going to start falling off a cliff on Bitcoin if they can't get it figured out. They need to get users and transactions on the main chain. And Lightning doesn't solve that. In order to keep the miners happy, to keep the security up. So there is a legitimate issue that hopefully gets solved by the time that happens, but hopefully somebody's working on something right now. Because it needs to scale, and the fees need to get cheaper, and the base chain needs to get used, right? You can't take Bitcoin off of the base chain and transact on a layer 2 because none of those transaction fees go to the miners. And you got to keep the miners happy. That's the most important thing. Which is another reason why, if Kaspa can't get adoption, then it will fail too. Because Kaspa needs to keep the miners happy. Fortunately for Kaspa, we have the scalability, right, and the fee structure in order to support that, support the miners as long as adoption comes, right? And so that's the only thing that we in Kaspa need to worry about is making sure that we have enough adoption. Everything else will take care of itself because the tech is built for everything on the back end to run, smoothly and efficiently and keep everybody happy as long as there's enough transactions on the chain. Don't you think we might be at anxiety? Yeah. It seems like we are. The problem is that we're so far along in the cycle that it's hard for me to believe, right? Unless I'm proven wrong, but I tend to expect things that have happened in the past until I am proven wrong. That we're too far along in the cycle to actually be in the anxiety stage. Although we are getting a little piece of it. Crypto's not cooked, be more. I don't believe it's cooked. Give it 3 or 4 weeks, we'll know for sure. We'll have a much better idea, that's for sure. Let's see. So in order for us to have an alt season too, I believe Bitcoin needs to, go make new all-time highs again. So, and stay above the 50-week. So we need to see that. Bitcoin's going to lead the next rally anyways. So let's all root for Bitcoin, right? If it can go see new all-time highs, get up in the 130s, 140s maybe, then all the macro stuff being on our side, I think things will start getting a little bit more, I don't know the word I'm looking for, a little more exciting to retail and to everybody else. And then maybe we get that euphoria phase. What's going on, Caspa Queen? I saw that you were in Sacramento the other night with some other Caspians, and I had a long day at work, or I actually was going to reach out and meet you guys there. But it didn't happen. I didn't get home till late. And I don't live in Sacramento, by the way, for any of you guys trying to figure out where I live. I actually live quite far away. But was going to make the trip because I'm on that coast. CryptoBank bought the dip, as always. You know what? We're going to be rewarded for that one of these days. Hopefully in the very near future. Who said what he thinks? November, December, we have an epic alt season. Last bull season started in November and ended in December. That's still my base case here. I know it doesn't seem like that's going to happen right now, but it's still very possible. Very possible. Yeah, we did that. What's your honest opinion on why tier 1s yet for no tier 1s yet for Cass? I think I just explained that. Hopefully you were listening. Mila, thank you for having a live video. We need to talk and support each other during these brutal times. Yes. Yeah. I would have thought, like, if because last cycle altcoins started running earlier because QE started earlier, and interest rates were basically at zero because of COVID, and so crypto ran earlier, but it had like major corrections. Like, it was choppy, but it was like, upwards chopping, slower. And what I think, and in the 2017 cycle, we kind of stayed sideways like we were right now, and then had just a massive, violent blow off top. And I think that's kind of what I think is going to happen this time around. So the cycles, they all seem to top around the same time, but they get there in a different fashion, right? Because even last cycle we had two tops, but we had a major correction in the summer of 2021, and then went up and made a new all-time high in November. And altcoins did run, I think, in December as well, like CryptoBank said. And then that was all she wrote. People are ruining themselves by buying more, hoping for the best. Well, that's your perspective. What happens if they're right? Based on history, they have a better chance of being right than this cycle being over. What happens if you're not buying and then you get left in the dust? Who's going to be laughing then? Who actually ruined themselves in that scenario, right? Richard, my Caspa bags are down 60%. There's a lot of people out there in that same scenario. So, first of all, you're not alone. And I bought some Caspa at, like 18 cents as well. So, most of my bag was bought, earlier in the 5-cent range, which we're actually sitting at again right now. Go figure. But I kept buying all the way up to 18-ish cents. And then I got lucky and got some more at 2.5 or 2.2 cents on that flash crash. Right place at the right time, I guess. Money was not on exchanges that were freezing buy and sells. And I was able to actually swap some Bitcoin for some Caspa at 2.2 cents. But yeah, there's two things you can do right now. Either you're going to continue to buy a little bit when you can at lower prices and bring down your average, or you're just going to sit on what you have and, eventually we'll get back to that price and go higher. Or, if you're completely soured on everything, you could always sell. But selling at a 60% loss is never the best scenario, especially when all metrics say we're still in a bull market. We just haven't gotten the parabolic phase yet. Enoch has got his buy orders in. Yeah, if you're happy with your portfolios right now and you've got a little bit extra money to play with, but you don't need to put it into the market, it might be a good idea in case we get another flash crash. I still think there's a chance of that down at some crazy levels. Just in case, if it doesn't hit, no big deal. You still have your USDT. If it does, you got excellent buys. All the snowflakes need to quit crying. This is a shakeout before the breakout. DCA into Caspa and become a legend. You are all investing in the best technology ever exist. Think and keep buying. I agree with that statement wholeheartedly. Yeah, this is as about as simple as you can put it. Buy low and sell high, which is why Richard, who we looked at, who's down over 60%, typically buying high and selling low is not the way you want to go about it. And if you hold things long enough, they tend to come back. Coins can go flat for years and then just all of a sudden go parabolic out of nowhere. And I'm not just talking about Caspa. I mean, look at what was that old ass coin that has just been pumping like crazy right now? Zcash or something? That coin should be dead. Like, there's no reason for anybody to hold that. But it just, some of these old dinosaur coins just pump out of nowhere. And it's been dead, apparently not dead, but it's been flatlined for 4 years. And it showed life, right? Everything will show life again. Whether you think it's going to or not, whether it seems like it or not, things will show life. Yeah, you guys think Caspa will never hit 20 cents again? That's like a 4x from here. Yeah. It's going to happen. El Jefe. I don't think wallet number 2, 4, or 6 have been buying. Oh, sorry. I read that wrong. I don't think wallet number 2, 4, or 6 have been buying for no alt season. People will never come back to crypto if that happens. Yeah. Yeah, you got to look at the big wallets. And you're going to see some sells here and there, but that's usually manipulation, especially for Bitcoin and Ethereum. But the whales for Caspa have just been buying. Out of curiosity, is my video lagging? Because my preview is way behind what I'm actually talking. Like, way behind. I wonder if it's lagging, because I watch some YouTube videos and they lag. They'll, like, freeze up and then, like, catch back up all at once. I wonder if I'm doing that. Yeah, this is a good point, too. The energy sector adoption of Warp Core on CAS is very promising in the near future. Yes, when Egra Labs launches their L2, then the KII is going to be using that layer 2 to facilitate all of their energy transactions between the 30 biggest energy companies in the world. And so I don't know how much of that's going to be ready on day one, but Rory, who, you know, is one of the, I don't know if he owns that company or he's one of the, you know, people way up at the top. He mentioned in a Spaces a month or two ago that we don't need to worry about the security budget of Caspa and having enough transactions to facilitate keeping miners happy and the security up. And him saying that was interesting because we know that they're going to be making, you know, hundreds or thousands of transactions potentially on a weekly basis, and all of those transactions are going to be settled on the base layer of Caspa. And I wonder, once all of that's live and working, what, you know, the transactions are going to look like on like cas.fyi, because he seems to think, and right, this is just him saying, he knows how many transactions they do between all these companies, right? And he says that there's no worry about any sort of transaction, you know, issue as far as how many transactions we're going to get to keep the security up. And so I wonder if he alone thinks that them are going to be able to suffice the miners on their own, transaction-wise. And then everything else is just icing on the cake. I don't know, but he seems pretty confident about that. So, very good point, Mila. We got to keep our eyes on the KII once Egra Labs launches, which they said they're going to launch this quarter. We'll see if it actually happens. Are the odds of a Binance listing before December lowered now? I don't know, because I think the number one scenario that we need to look for is price action in the market going up, like sustainably, for altcoins. And I think at that point, we could see the Caspa listing. Right? If Caspa had given them a bunch of tokens, paid the fines, or paid the, whatever they call them, the amount of money that they want, then they would have already listed them. They would have already listed Caspa, because no matter what Caspa's prices, they're making money off of it because they were given the tokens for free. Okay, so if they are wallet number 2, or if they are wallet number 4 or 6 or whatever, top 10 wallet they might be at this point, they're not going to list Caspa and take a loss. And so the one thing that we're going to look for, I think, that needs to happen before a top tier exchange listing is price go up. And I mean the whole market, right? Because I don't think Caspa, although it could, make a run by itself before the rest of the market, but I think we just need to be in a full-blown alt season before we get a listing. That's just, my gut feeling. Because if you ran a business, you're not going to want to sell, product for less than you bought it for. That's just not a good business model. And that's the situation that we're in with Caspa, because it's ground roots, no pre-mine, no VC backing, no giving, no set aside portion of the supply to give to these exchanges. So, it's a double-edged sword. You get what you get on the, the bright end of that, with no VCs and all that kind of stuff dumping on you, but you also might have to wait longer for certain things to happen because, we're not giving them anything ahead of time. I think this is probably the 2017 run again. Everything will pump hard in the end. That's what I think too. Because the lead up looks similar, and the cycle, like as a whole, when you go back and look at charts, looks similar. And the craziest thing about all of it is we have the same president in office, and so like you put that like as icing on the cake in that scenario, and it's like, I could easily see something like that happening. So let's just see how Q4 plays out. We all want to get rich. I know. We all want to get rich fast. I know. I do too. But you can't force the market to do something that you want just because you want it to happen, right? We have to set ourselves up ahead of time and just wait for things to play out. And that's how we're going to make money. And we can't force things to play out faster than they're actually going to play out, right? And so, and you can't also stop things from happening, sooner, because you want more time to accumulate. Things are going to happen when they're going to happen, and that's the bottom line. We hope it's Q4 this year, because that's typically what happens. But if it's not, and all macro, scenarios are still positive and tell us that we're in a bull market, then we're just going to have to wait a little bit longer. As awful as that sounds. Wait, where are you? I'm not going to, unfortunately, tell anybody where I actually live. For safety reasons. I've mentioned that I'm on the West Coast of the United States, and that's as far as I'm going to go. Because there's a lot of weirdos out there, and I don't want to run into any of those weirdos. All of you guys are probably cool. But there might be a creeper in the background that we don't know about. What if Caspa doesn't go to all-time highs and he blames me? Even though I'm just some random dude on the internet, and you shouldn't follow what I say. At heart anyways. You should do your own research and watch other people and get an array of different opinions and then figure out what you want to do. I just don't want something bad to happen, so. Yeah, DM private message me on X next time that you're doing something in the area. In that area or any area for that matter along the West Coast. And then maybe I can partake with you guys. $1 is 20x. Do you still think that's possible this year with a Binance listing? I still think it's possible. I'm probably less bullish on the $3 mark at this point. Because I don't know that I expected the market to go, down this much again, but we'll see. I mean, anything can happen. You guys, if you're in crypto long enough, some of you guys know this, or if you haven't, listen closely. Anything can happen. The craziest stuff that you never thought was possible can happen to the upside and the downside. And it'll shock you every time, even though you are hardened by the market for being, here for a long time. It'll still shock you. Maybe for, less of amount of time where you're just like, wow, I didn't expect that to happen. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised. I think this is very unlikely, so don't take this, to heart or, take it with a grain of salt. I wouldn't be surprised if Caspa went higher than $3. My voice just cracked. I wouldn't be surprised. Do I think it's probable? Absolutely not. Would it shock me? Yes. But I also wouldn't be surprised because I have seen some crazy stuff happen. Sound keeps cutting out. It might be because I'm moving my head away from the microphone. This microphone only catches my voice when it's right in front of it. When I move a little bit out of the way, it kind of cuts out. That might be why. Yeah, here you go. Was it Richard? This might make you feel better. A buddy of his bought 400K CAS at 16 cents. Only a loss when you sell at a loss. Exactly. Yeah, if you hold on long enough, you're gonna at least make your money back. Helen, can I set a buy order on Tangem? Sorry for asking if it's a stupid question. Yeah, no such thing as a stupid question. I don't believe you can. Correct me, anybody, if I'm wrong, but you need an exchange. So that you can set a buy limit. I don't think you can do that on a decentralized exchange via Tangem. So you're going to need to set up an account on an exchange that allows for trading. And then you can go in with some USDT, like a Kaspa USDT pair, and then set a limit on that you want the exchange to automatically buy for you. I would imagine that there's videos out there that will tell you exactly how to do that if you wanted to. Just search on YouTube. It'll kind of give you a step-by-step on how to do it. Oh, man, Jerome Powell's in the house. That's crazy. I was going to get off the stream right now, but check this out. Guess who's in the house? The actual Jerome Powell is here. So, Jerome, we have a question for you. First question. Are we getting a 50 basis point rate cut this month? First question. Second question. Are we ending quantitative tightening this month or next month? Because I hope it's one of those 2 months. Let us know. Crazy. Welcome to the stream, Jerome. Okay. Guys, no rate cuts for the rest of the year. Enjoy the cheap prices. You heard it first. Straight out of Jerome Powell's mouth. Well, actually, it's not a mouth. It's typing. Yep. Back to saving the economy. Okay. You heard it first. Enjoy cheap prices for the rest of the year. No blow off top at the end of the year. No more rate cuts and no QT. Or QE, I should say. Ending of QT. Thanks, Jerome, for answering our question, but also F you for not giving us what we want. All right, guys. I got to go. It's dinner time for me. Make sure you pay your bar tabs. Hit that like button before you leave the bar. Make sure you subscribe, too, if you want to win 10,000 Kaspa. And in the meantime, guys, I appreciate everybody for coming in and hanging out. I know that it's frustrating right now, but what I can guarantee you is at some point, I don't know exactly when, these streams are going to be euphoric because the markets will be going absolutely insane. Okay? Those will be the fun ones. But I appreciate you being here for the shitty ones. In the meantime, continue to pack your damn bags before it's too late. See you in the next video. Peace out.